Hey guys, it's Ted Lincoln's Fishing Life, out here on the roundabout doing my recap for, what was that, March, the bite of the day recap for March. I'm running late, as always. At least I'm getting it done. Also getting a little fishing done. Just had my lunch break, so now I figured I'd sit down and break down March's bite of the day videos. We'll start off with number 104. Bite of the day number 104, and that was on a underspin, and I have it right here. Where is it? Right here. It is an MC Swimbait. What is it called? The MC Swimmer. Their names aren't exactly creative, but on an EWG underspin hook. This was one of the days when Atypical Outdoors was down here for his third visit with me. It's a yearly thing we've been doing, and we were fishing in the rain, and the bite was a little tough, and I don't know, something made me decide to pick up the underspin. So check this out, bite 104, fishing with Atypical Outdoors with the MC Swimbait. Underspin. Maybe a 4-pounder.
Yes, sir. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that bite kind of surprised me because we hadn't got a bite in a while, and I just tied this on. This was maybe the second or third cast with it, and he nailed it. I just found this swim bait, that MC Swimbait make. If you've seen my other bite of the day videos, I've shown you the smaller one and the bigger one. This has just got a slightly different shape. It's a little thicker at the head. And it's got a little more beef, and it seems to hold up really well too. I can use the bigger spring lock, and it doesn't fall apart after the first bite. And there's even enough that I can mend it back together if I need to. The other interesting thing about this rig, just the lure, is that it's on an Amazon purchased brand EWG underspin swimbait hook. And the only reason it's on that is, as you know, things are hard to get, especially hooks and weights, and I couldn't find an owner hook or even Trocar makes one, anywhere in the right size. They were sold out. So Amazon had these. I think they're, what are they called? Reaction, I have it written down here. Reaction Tackle. It's one of those things you see on the side of your Amazon if you're looking at fishing stuff. They have all sorts of packages, but it's a tungsten weight. This one's the 4-aught EWG. I've got the 4 and the 5 with a little underspin. It's nothing special, but it's held up. I can't complain. I'm not going to get rid of them. I will eventually buy some owner flashy swimmers. They just are a little bit nicer. And I think actually Gamakatsu just came out with one I might try. But this Reaction Tackle one from Amazon, I think you get like 4 of them for like $12 or $14. It's not that much cheaper, but it is a tungsten weight. I haven't bent the hooks out. It stayed sharp. The spinner spins, so that's about all you can ask for in an underspin hook. As for the setup, it's on this rod and reel. I have it set up again. I'm going to try to see if I can save the day today. Today's been slow as well. You guys have seen this before. This is my SLX medium heavy setup, 30-pound braid, SLX, regular SLX 2-to-1 reel, and it's the medium heavy 7 2 extra fast. You can't read any more of the writing. I've worn this rod out. But I haven't broken a guide or anything. This thing I've had for over a year. It's the same one I caught my 12-pounder on. Basically, this is like a $200 combo, the rod and reel. You can actually find it cheaper online if you look. I'll put a link where they pretty much sell you the rod for like 20 bucks if you buy an SLX combo with an SLX reel. If I had some money, I'd probably order another one. But yeah, I was fishing this on the edge of cover. I ended up actually fishing this a lot in cover, and there's something about that little blade tinging around on top of the lily pads or grass that's just a little extra, and it definitely doesn't hurt as long as it's not getting hung up. But when I first started throwing the underspin, I only threw it on the edges and maybe into holes and pockets. But I've definitely started to use it to burn across cover as well. Like I said, the pads and emergent grass. Needless to say, like hydrilla or coontail working the edges is still awesome. And the nice thing is when it drops, that spinner just gives you a little extra flash. And you know, the underspin is just a little more subtle than a spinnerbait or even a chatterbait, but it's a little more flash than just a swim bait or a swim jig. And I just also don't think it's that popular yet. I mean, in some areas it is, but here in Florida, I don't know that many people that throw it outside of offshore cover or offshore structure fishing, but with an open hook. But the weedless hooks in heavy cover is awesome. I just ordered a whole bunch more of these swim baits in different sizes from Tackle Warehouse. The MC swim bait, MC Swimmer. This is the 4-inch, I believe, on the 4-aught hook. So yeah, that was bite. That was the first bite of the day for March, bite 104, and that was right before I filmed that right before I put it up. A part of that same trip that I filmed was with Atypical Outdoors. I caught a huge frogfish, 9 pounds, 9.3 pounds. My new scale does points, not ounces, so I'm still getting used to saying what's correct. I had turned my GoPro off, I guess, or hadn't turned it on, I guess, after we took a break. It was a cold, rainy day, same day as the underspin bite, and I had just said, you know, maybe about half an hour before this happened, we haven't found the big fish yet. And like 20 minutes later, not even, Eric hooks into a total monster, just pitching a little zoom speed, what is it, Z-craw, to some isolated pads and grass. And he set the hook so hard and it pulled back so hard that it pulled him off the back deck of the boat onto the lower deck, and it got off. And he had to retie, it bent out his hook, and it's crazy. He's actually putting out a video. It should be out probably before this video is out, so hopefully I can have a link to his version of this day and this bite, and his bite and my bite, because he was retying and just happened to be sitting down in my boat with his chesty pointing forward. So luckily I got this on tape, or he got it on tape. So here it is, bite number 105, a 9-pounder on a trash panda in bluegill color.
Oh!
I got it. That was a...
Oh!
In my memory. Oh my god.
Ooh, ate it.
I'm gonna have
9-3.
7.
That's probably the most intense 5 minutes or 10 minutes of bass fishing you can ever have.
So yeah, as you can hear in the end of that, he's talking about, man, that's the craziest 5 minutes in bass fishing. And we've got little guys feeding right behind me. And And it was incredible to lose a giant and catch a giant, not even the same fish, all within, 50 yards of each other. It was crazy. I'll be making my own video about my trip with Eric. Aside from these Bite of the Day videos, I've just been so busy I haven't had time to edit it. But yeah, that frogfish is the biggest fish this year so far for me. And when we saw it, we thought it was like a teener. And it was like long enough. It was almost 26 inches long. And that's easily could have been a teener, but she was post-spawn already. And this is in like early March. It just goes to show in Florida, you can never tell when the big ones are going to spawn. And it varies from lake to lake. But she absolutely annihilated that frog. And I had just switched from the black one to the white one, well, the white belly one. It's a bluegill pattern. I'd show it to you, but I lost it, unfortunately, and I haven't been able to get another one because they're out of stock everywhere that I try to order them. But here's the black one that I normally throw. I wasn't getting bit on this at all. Switched to white belly. I think the third or fourth cast I caught a 2-pounder, and I was like, oh, I guess they want white. So sometimes it really does make a difference what color your frog is. It also depends on how thick the cover is and how clear your water is. Where I caught that fish, the water is really clear, and it's sparse pads, so they can kind of see it better than say in like Orange Lake and Hydrilla. That's really muddy and murky and dark, and they just see the movement. Here in the or there on the pads, they can tell what color it is, and it night and day difference. But since I don't have the white bluegill one to show you, I'll show you with this one. I've shown you this guy's before, or you've seen some of the Bite of the Days. I don't know if I've broken down this frog exactly. My frog video is still in the works, but in short, the trash panda is my favorite heavy pad frog. It's the pointy shape, comes through the pads really well, and the fact that the hooks are really well hidden behind the frog's body. And when I first got it, I didn't think it was that soft, and every time I'd push on it, I was like, it doesn't compress that well. And it wasn't until later that I realized the hole for the air to get out is right where I was pressing. So if I just pressed up here, it compresses real easy. So it's soft, pointy, and doesn't get hung up. So, and it's kind of got a keel shape, which is really good in heavy pads. Awesome frog for heavy pads. And I was throwing that on my frog rod right here, which has my other favorite all general purpose frog, the trash panda, and Old Smoky. This is my other SLX, full SLX combo, same SLX 8:2-to-1 reel, or same model of reel, not the exact same reel obviously. And this is just that heavy version of the same rod, 7.2, heavy, fast action. And if you've watched my videos and my breakdowns, you've seen me talk about this. I run 50-pound straight braid. I run Berkley X9 because it's smooth and it lasts a long time. I don't throw 65-pound braid for frogs ever because I've never broken off 50. The 50 slices through the cover a little better. It's a little thinner, which also helps, less visible. But I can cast it better, especially with the 7.2 rod. If I was using my 7.6, I might run 65. But I switched to 50 pretty early on in my frog fishing, and I have never looked back. And so I run 50-pound. I usually black out the line. It's already faded from today. And like I said, if you've watched my videos, you've definitely seen my frog setup. And my frog project video is still in the works. It's a really long video. But I got so lucky that Eric had his camera on and that we got it on film. And in his video, you'll see that we were actually disappointed that it was 9 pounds, which is kind of, silly, but, it looked way, way bigger than 9 pounds. And if we had caught it maybe a couple weeks earlier, it would have been, I'm guessing, 10 or 11 pounds, at least 10. Maybe 11. It was still not super skinny post spawn, but definitely was hungry, and that's why she smashed that frog. It's an epic. That was it. Like I said, that's the biggest fish so far for me this year. Awesome fish. So yeah, now we're on to bite 106. I gotta dig up the bait. Here it is. A red crankbait. It's actually on this lake, on this roundabout. Here it is, a little Lucky Craft. What is it called? This is the LC 20D10. You know, not the sexiest name in the world, right? But it's basically almost like their square bill, but with a longer bill, like their 1.5. And so with this roundabout, when I'm moving around from spot to spot, sometimes I'll just throw a crankbait or a jerkbait to troll behind me because I'm going at trolling speed. And you never know what's out in the middle of the lake. I've actually found some humps and stuff doing that. You'll catch the grass. Before I had a depth finder on here. I have one now, but it's a good way to find what's out there, especially on a slow moving boat like this. It's not legal in tournaments to troll, just so you know. Got a little cricket or frog back there. So here's bite of the day number 106. It's me trolling this little Lucky Craft crankbait. Ooh, there goes another fish. There we go, something deep. That's a pretty good one. Trolling to my other spot. Thing about the roundabout, it goes so slow, you might as well troll on the way there. That's a good fish. Just got one hook though. No, he's got both hooks. Definitely post spawn. Look how skinny. Just one hook now. Call that. So yeah, that was me trolling this crankbait on the roundabout on this lake. Like I said, it's just like their 1.5 square bill, but with a deep diving bill. It goes about 6, is rated 6 to 8, I think. I've never actually seen this one before. I found it at Ollie's, another half price, $6.99 buy. And, you know, in the spring, everyone talks about red being a great color. And in general, on deep, I think red's a good color because they can see it. It's one of the few colors they can see deeper, or light reflects. It's one of the few colors that shows up in deep water. And I was throwing this actually on my crankbait rod, which I have sitting here with, actually not my crankbait rod, my jerkbait rod, which I have sitting here with a jerkbait. When I'm on the roundabout, sometimes I don't have room to bring all the types of rods that I want. And you know, this 13 Fishing Fate Green is my favorite rod to throw a jerkbait on that I own. It's a 6'7", medium, but it's very parabolic. And it's not the perfect thing to throw that crankbait, but as long as I'm trolling and not reeling, it works pretty well. It's a little soft for cranking it, but the softness helps also when you get bit. It keeps the fish on, so it will do double duty if I can't bring my crankbait rod with me, which was the case that day. I just had this rod in terms of a moderate action rod. And like I said, this is my 13 Fishing Fate Green. It's, what is it, 6'7", and it's medium, fast, and it's a perfect jerkbait rod, and in a pinch, it's a good square bill, small crankbait rod. And I'm running that with the Bass Rise, JDM Bass Rise Shimano reel. This is the 18 model. There's an older one, I forget, the 15. This is a $60 reel. And this is the same reel that I caught that 911 on the same rod setup on a jerkbait. And I just bought a second one. This is actually the newer one because I lost my side plate to my Casitas that I used for my crankbait rod. And I love that reel, but it's so expensive to buy the side plate because you have to buy all the parts. You can't just buy the complete assembly. that it was cheaper for me to get another one of these reels. And these reels are basically the same as the Casitas. It's the same body. Everything's the same except for 2 or 3 things. First thing is it has a bushing instead of a bearing at the drive. And it's magnetic cast control instead of centrifugal cast control. But with these lighter baits, it works really well. Like this is the first magnetic cast control that, like, even one click, I can tell the difference. So I've learned to really love these reels, and like I said, I just bought another one to replace my Casitas because it's pretty much a Casitas without, well, with magnetic brakes, and the one bearing is a bushing. But I took the bearing out of my Casitas and put it in this one. So this is pretty much almost a Casitas, just with magnetic brake control. And if you know anything about the Shimano Casitas, it's kind of an underground cult following. It's one of the accidental bait cast finesse wonders. They cast light lures better than any bait caster I've ever owned, even better than this one. This one's a close second. And I'm still gonna look for parts to fix my Casitas because they're selling for more on eBay than they did when they were new. And they've been discontinued for only about 1.5 years, 2 years maybe. So I thought about buying a new one or a used one, but you just can't find them. Everyone buys them up. So I'm gonna hang on to what I have of mine. Hopefully one day we'll be showing it to you again and on another catch video. That was bite number, what was that, 106, the red Lucky Craft crankbait. But yeah, that setup does work really well for this smaller crankbait or other small crankbaits. And where I caught that fish is out here. There's a hump that I found trolling one day, and I've marked it with my graph now. And so the water out here is about 12 to 13 feet deep. This is out in the middle of this lake. And then there's just an area where there's, it's a pretty big area, maybe 50 yards of a 7-foot deep hump with some of that green stringy grass. And they're not always fish on there, but sometimes when you can't get bit on the bank, I'll go out there and make a few casts and I'll at least catch something. It's the same spot that my buddy Rob caught the double on the Yozuri goldish, like orange crankbait, similar size to this, on my birthday weekend. But yeah, sometimes trolling around with a crankbait, you can find those offshore spots like that that are just a little shallower, that have a little cover. This was just, like I said, a little of that green stringy grass, and it holds fish, and I wouldn't have found it if I hadn't been trolling around. So one good thing to do with a crankbait, you can do it with a lipless crankbait too, works really well. All right, so here's bite number 107. This is me on Rainbow River, fishing the Sneaky Pete. It's actually this setup, but the different Sneaky Pete in a different color. It's the shad color, I forget, I'll put it in the description, but this is the baby bass color. And this was after Eric left, and if you've already watched Eric's video, which has come out about glide bait fishing on Rainbow, he killed it that day. He got 2 really nice fish. I caught a bunch of fish, but no really nice ones. I even caught like a fish that was maybe 6 inches longer than my Explorer glide bait. It was crazy. And actually that morning we ran into Matt Allen at the boat ramp, who from Tactical Bassing, who I had met in California with my buddy Josh from JSJ Baits. And I already, you know, knew the guy, and we pull up and there he is, and I'm looking at his boat. Eric's like, that's Tactical Bassing. And Matt's just pointing at me. He's like, the one guy I know in Florida, and you're here. Yeah, so this was the trip after I was with Eric, and after I had run into Matt the week before with Ashley. Check out, you know, Bite of the Day number 107 on Rainbow River with fishing the Sneaky Pete glide bait. And I got one. Good one. Look at it. He's not a little baby, he's a good one. yeah, that fish was fun, and that was also caught off the dock that I've caught my biggest fish off that river in the 90s. So I always hit that dock on the way by. It's actually kind of a famous dock. If you guys know me, you know that that dock appears in another bass film. I tell all my friends about it, but it's pretty cool. But that day was kind of a rough day for me. We started the day going way up to the head spring, and Ashley dropped her phone in the water. But being Rainbow River, you could see right where it was, turned right around, so like in less than 2 minutes I jumped in the water and I grabbed it. But something happened when I jumped in the water, and I jammed something in my neck. I already had like kind of a stiff neck for a few days, but a few minutes after I got out of the water, and I didn't hit the bottom, I didn't even come close, I didn't jump really particularly hard, it just turned my head the right way and hit pressure the right way, but my fingers started tingling and the backs of my arms went numb. And at first I thought it just might be the cold water, but no, it didn't go away. Of course, I didn't go in. I fished the whole rest of the day, but it kept getting worse as the day went along. So by the time I caught that fish, it kind of actually very uncomfortable. But, you know, I still had to catch that fish, or I still had to try to catch that fish, and I did. So I'm glad I kept at it. And this is the setup right here. It's the first fish I had caught on, well, the first good fish I had caught on this Calcutta 250 that my friend Klaus traded me for some real work. I fixed 2 of his other Calcuttas and he gave me this one. I upgraded the handle to the GoMexus handle. You guys saw that other video of mine. These things are awesome. You can just see them spinning. It really makes a big difference, especially with these big glide baits, to have that smooth, big handle. I'm running 65-pound braid onto my 13 Fishing Defy Black 8-foot heavy fast action swim bait rod. I usually use this rod now as my big soft plastic swim bait rod, but I still like throwing the Sneaky Pete on it. It just feels right. I kind of got used to fishing the Sneaky Pete on this before I got another swim bait rod. So I still throw the Sneaky Pete on this rod a lot. I will throw it on my craw swim bait rod occasionally too. But I'm running that to 20-pound mono leader. This is all Berkley line. This is trilene, and this is X9 65 trilene 20. Blood knot to leader. One of the things, I've started using clips on my glide baits, but I don't use it on the Sneaky Pete. It doesn't help the action. It actually hurts the action to have that pivot in the front. And especially in current. And if you've watched Tackle Gobassin or even watched my videos or Eric's videos, you know these Sneaky Petes do really well in current. I mean, the guys who build this are out in Sacramento. They fish the Sacramento River Valley, the Delta, a lot for stripers and big bass. So they kind of designed it, I don't know if on purpose, but definitely works well. Osprey just caught a bass right over there. Crazy. Works really well in current, and it works really well in general. It's still my favorite glide bait. I've had more luck and I have more confidence with this bait than any other glide bait. But when I'm fishing rainbow, I do change one thing. I change the hooks out on all my baits depending on where I'm going to be. Sometimes I'll leave the stock hooks on, just depends on the bait and what hooks come on it. And this one actually has some ST36s that I put on, but the one that I was fishing in that video, and when I fish on rainbow, I run 1/0 Gamakatsu G Finesse trebles. And yeah, they're light, they're thin wire, but they are really strong and they're Teflon coated, and they are the stickiest hooks in the world. I mean, you can't even touch them. And they got that nano coating on it. And in rainbow, I can see what I'm throwing at. Like, it's so clear that I don't get hung in trees or in rock or even in very heavy cover very often. I mean, it happens. But it's not like even here, it's got clear water, but I throw out there, I can get stuck a lot easier, and that's what usually bends out the hooks. I have yet to see a bass bend out those G-Finesse hooks, the 1/0 ones. I mean, I'm sure it's possible. It all depends on your setup as well, what rod and line you're using. But they snap at it so quickly out there on Rainbow because they can see it, and so they either nail it or they hit it, snip at it, and those G-Finesse hooks are the key to keeping those little snaps on. If they get that hook, they're on, and you just got to get them in as soon as you can. So that's one of my little tricks on Rainbow, especially, is G-Finesse trebles. But yeah, I had the Calcutta 100 on here, and so having the 250 is definitely more comfortable. The only reason I had the 100 on here is I had that reel, and it worked. But this holds more line. I can cast this thing a mile now. It's awesome. The 65-pound braid even. Don't forget to check out Eric's video from the trip before. I'll leave the link below. But so that wasn't the end of that day. Not only did I catch a fish, hurt my neck, you know, I fished all day from like mid-morning till dark. I get back to the van and it was spring break. I didn't know it, but it was a weekday, but the parking lot was full, and it's usually not full on a weekday. And I get to my van and I have a flat tire. Yeah, so I have like a sore neck, tingly arms, super tired, and I gotta fix a flat in the parking lot, and there's this truck parked right next to me, and so I start fixing it. And I look at the trailer of the boat trailer of the truck next to me, and I see Champion. I'm like, huh, that's funny. You don't see a lot of Champions in Florida, and you know, I just saw Matt out here with his. And I look at the truck plate, and it's got Tennessee plates, and it's a temporary one. And if you know anything, if you watch Tactical Bassin, they just moved from California to Tennessee. And I turned to Ashley and I go, you know, this might be that guy Matt Allen's truck that I saw here last week. And she goes, you mean that guy right there? And it's freaking Matt Allen walking up. He's like, get away from my truck, you hippie. Yeah, little California joke for all of y'all. He actually said that people usually call him hippie, so he gets a kick when he thinks somebody else could also be one. Long story short, he's just like crazy to run into you again, and I hadn't been there since the week before. He hadn't been there since the week before. He was there with his family, with Cece and Sierra, and you know, he's watching me fix my flat next to his truck, and basically we ended up all hanging out and having dinner and chatting for a couple hours afterwards. A lot of fun. If you ever run into either, well, I've never met Tim, but I'm sure he's just like Matt. If you ever run into those guys or yet any of these YouTube guys, especially me, I mean, come up and say, hey, we're just out here having fun. And same with those guys. It's crazy. They were just out there fishing, and he was fishing swim baits on the river while his wife and daughter got to swim in the crystal clear water. But yeah, crazy day. Got a good fish. I went to the chiropractor, got my neck fixed. That's a whole other story, but I'm good to go right now. Just be careful when you jump in the water. Old wise saying is true. So we're gonna do bite of the day 108, 108, auspicious number, I guess. This is back-to-back senko bass on a senko, like I said. The last one was about 6 pounds. I basically was hiding from the wind and casting in one spot. Check out the video and explain more about the tackle and technique after. Bite. that was me sitting in one spot hiding behind a point with the wind cutting across it. I basically was throwing a weightless senko on a super windy day, which if you know anything about senko fishing, that's not normal. But because of where I was, there was no wind right where I was throwing, and I kept throwing in that same hole. And I actually had my camera off for the first 2 catches. I caught a 3 and a 4, and then I catch that other 3 that you see as I realized I have my camera off. I turned it on, and then I threw right back. And the next cast, I catch that 6. Well, he's just under 6, but 5 pounds, 15 ounces, something like that. 6 pounds in my book. And yeah, where is it? Oh, right here. But yeah, in that video, I'm throwing one of these little 6-inch stickos from Bass Pro Shop in this color, actually, the black and orange. And I don't hear a lot of people talk about this color, but man, it is a killer color. I don't know, they just love it. At least my bass do. I fish this in a lot of lakes around here, and it does well everywhere. It's not always the right color, but a lot of times it is. And I was running that on my Corrado setup, which has a worm on it right now, or my Corrado rod, Sitka. This is my fluoro flipping setup, supposedly, is what it was rated for. It's a 7.6 medium heavy, and it says for fluoro flipping, with my Sitka 200, my Sitka 200 running 50-pound braid, Berkley X9, but with that Gambler clear plastic bullet weight screw in and a Mustad big mouth tube hook in 4/0, which I thought I had one sitting here, but I don't see it right now. And that is my key to senko fishing, and I would explain more, but I have a whole video on Florida rigging a senko. I'll link it below. Watch it. I explain everything about the gear and about the tackle and how I use it. And that day, I mean, it just panned out. 4 fish in a row, 1 6-pounder at the end. It's hard to beat. But sometimes it's hard to beat the senko. I mean, there are other days where I literally can't get bit on a senko. But that wasn't that day. That was a good senko day, even in the wind. You just had to position yourself. I had to position myself right to deal with the wind. So let's move on to bite 109. What is that? Bite 109. Actually, this goes back about a year to about the same time a year before. It's just one of those bites I hadn't, or little videos I hadn't used in anything, so I show it to you guys. And it was right after I had just bought my new punching setup. But here it is. I'm punching, or pitching more than punching in this particular bite, 2 isolated mats on Noonan's Lake with a kinky beaver. Check it out, bite 109. There we go. Fish. Man, we got more bass. I'm about to hit the lake again. I gotta finish this review or recap. But so yeah, I just bought this rod. This is my other Corrado flipping setup. This is what they call their braid flipping rod, and it's a 7.7 heavy, fast action. And so the other one is a 7.6 medium heavy, and there is a big difference. And I run 65-pound braid on this, and all I do is punch with it. I don't ever even put a Texas rig worm on it. Sometimes I'll put a jig on it, but even a jig, it's a little too stout for that. But when I'm punching into those heavy mats or into these heavy pads or grass, and you know, obviously I've caught fish over 10 pounds or bigger doing that, you need to be able to pull them out and turn their head. In that video, I was still running my Corrado reel, but I have since switched to the SLX MGL 70, and it feels just as good. The Corrado has a little bit more drag, and since I have them locked down, it doesn't seem to really matter. A few more pounds of drag on the Corrado. I moved that to swim bait setup, which you've probably seen in my other Bite of the Day recaps. But yeah, I was basically pitching with the same bait setup. It's a kinky beaver. I believe that one was in blue and pumpkin swirl. This one is in tramp stamp. But this is my go-to creature beaver bait, the kinky beaver. I mean, I caught my 10-12 on it. I've caught many 8s and 9s on it. I was pitching with the 3/4 ounce tungsten weight that I have on here now. A Berkley Fusion 19 EWG 4/0 hook. I do not flip with straight shanks. Thank you to Matt Allen and Miles Burghoff for backing me up on this. I hate a straight shank and a snell knot. It just doesn't work. I lose fish. Miles just did a whole video on it. I'll link that if I can below. I think it has something to do with how you hook set. Because obviously it works for some people. I mean, it works for a lot of people. That's why it's the standard. But I cannot keep a fish on when I use a snell and a straight shank. So, like I said earlier, those Berkley hooks are amazing, and they're like half the price of other really good hooks. And these Fusion Superline 19 hooks have the nano slick coating on them. I've never bent one of these out. I broke one once on a tree pulling the boat, but I pulled the boat maybe 20 yards before the hook broke. Great hook. Like I said, 3/4 ounce tungsten, 2 bobber stops. This is how I punch 90% of the times. I change the weight, obviously, depending on the conditions. 65-pound X9 braid. Awesome. And that was like my first real bass on that punching setup in that Bite of the Day. That's why I had saved it. It's, you know, you got to save those first catches on those new setups. And like I said, it's my dedicated. I'm starting to have more than a few, but definitely my punching, my topwater, and my frog. They don't do anything else. That's all they do. Like my jerkbait rod has other things it can do. My chatterbait rod has other things it could do. My crankbait rods, you know. But those three, the topwater, the frog, and the punching, that's all they do. They don't ever tie it on anything else. And I mean, that's how I catch most of my big fish anyway. Out of those three things, maybe a senko is the other thing. And that I have different setups I can fish that on. Okay, so now on to Bite 110, Bite of the Day 110. And this is actually from the day that I was filming the last recap video. My friend's lake that he let me out on. He wants me to teach him how to bass fish. It's not a totally private lake. Well, I guess it kind of is. But he's got a boat ramp and I put my boat in. But on this day, I couldn't get a bite till I switched to the popper. And I'm sure you guys watch my videos, you know how much I throw that Yozuri popper. But this time, it was the Berkley popper. And this bite is one of the 2 6-pounders I caught that day on that popper. Check it out, bite number 110. There we go, that's a little better one. He's better. Ooh, yeah, he's strong. Oh, that's a good one. A lot better than I thought he was. He bit. Oh, yeah. There we go. buddy. Yeah, so that was one of 2 6-pounders I caught that day on that same popper. Here it is, the Berkley Bullet pop. Instead of that Yozuri pop, this is one of my other favorite, especially for a baby bass pattern. And it was kind of funny because the day before in my memories on Facebook, it had shown me that I had caught 2 6-pounders on a frog the day before a year ago with Ashley on Rodman during the drawdown, at the end of the drawdown, before they locked everything down actually. So it's just kind of weird that a year later I catch 2 6-pounders on topwater again, this time a popper, not a frog. In the recap I say I'm going to link both of them back to back, but I haven't got to the second one yet. As you guys will see, there was a good reason. I'm still going to put it out there just so you guys can see it. It was a crazy day. So I started the day out fishing some spots where I'd seen some beds. I caught some small ones, nothing really big, not a lot of bites. And I had marked a bunch of fish offshore. I even found a couple brush piles. So I went out kind of looking at them, and you know, if you watch my videos, you probably know that I don't fish offshore that much. It's like my major weakness. But I live in Florida, so most of my fish are in cover. Even if it's out in open water, there's cover there. So this lake is about 13 to 14 feet deep, and like I said, I marked some fish. I had a drop shot on, a deep crankbait, and I wasn't getting bit, and I just decided to go fish this one bank out of the wind, and I had this popper tied on. I went back in this canal, and second cast, that 6-pounder came out and demolished it. I think that's the strongest fish I've caught pound for pound all year. That fish did not want to come in, and I mean, it pulled. I even have to fast forward in the bite video because I put these videos on Instagram. That's why they're 1 minute, as well as on YouTube, obviously. And I had to fast forward because he just wouldn't come in. He was mean. She was mean. She was, I think, still pre-spawn because she was short and fat. She had a really big head too. It was one of those big head, short body bass. But yeah, I caught her on this exact popper right here. And it's the medium size of the Berkley Bullet pops. It's the 70. I think they have a 60 and an 80. I can't remember if it's an 80 or 90. But this is the middle one, and this is the money size for me. And like I said, for a baby bass pattern, this is my go-to. I love that Yozuri. Yozuri still casts better, but not a lot. This is pretty close. And that was actually the first day that I started playing around with clips on my topwater. This is a VMC clip. In that video, I believe I have an owner clip on there. And I've decided I like the owner clips for jerkbaits and crankbaits. I know people don't use clips with jerkbaits. I do, but I'll explain that later in a jerkbait video that's coming. Yeah, Justice, I'm still making it. And the jury's still out on whether I like clips for topwater. The only problem I found with the owner one was that it was long enough that I kept catching that front hook with the line. I still have to run a ring on this bullet popper because it's so deep, there's no way to get a clip on there. But on my other topwaters, I took the rings off and I'm running this clip. We'll see. I'm still 50-50 on it. It does also mean I don't retie as much, which is good and bad, because sometimes I get nicks and I don't check it. I actually broke off a topwater recently in a cast, but because I had a nick in it, because I hadn't been changing my line or retying. But being a topwater, I was able to go get it. Man, also these Berkley hooks. Same thing with the Yozuri. That is true with this Berkley. The hooks are strong, they're super sharp, but they're also super thin. And the reason I throw these small poppers so much is partially because of those hooks. I can literally throw this through cover, and it's not, unless it's really loose, I can like pull it through lily pads and it won't hang up, it'll just rip out. I was actually out on the boat a couple of weeks ago or a month ago with my buddy Chris, and I was throwing the Yozuri popper along this edge of gator grass, and the wind had kind of blown it so that I hit the little edge of it, and I just popped right through it. And he's like, that should be impossible. And I go, it's only possible with a bait with small hooks like this, but they have to be small and strong, so it's a hard combo. And pretty much these Berkley Fusion hooks are my go-to hook if I replace hooks, but obviously the Berkley baits come with it. Awesome hooks, can't recommend them enough. And the other thing is these poppers, they sit a little back, but they sit more like this instead of like this, like a walking bait really would. And that way when you stop, if you're right over cover, the hooks don't get hung up. And it's also being short, it doesn't have very far to go. So I can fish this in shallow submerged cover without getting hung up a lot more than even a slightly bigger popper or even a walking bait that's gonna sit a little more tail down. And both this and the Yozuri are very good in the smaller size. Once you get bigger, the hooks stop being thin enough to rip through the cover. But I'm running that on my topwater rod, which is that old Bass Pro Shops Bionic blade. It's a old school 6.6 medium heavy, so it's a little more parabolic than a modern one. Always 30-pound X9 Berkley braid to always 17-pound Berkley Trilane mono leader. I always run a 17-pound mono leader on all my topwaters on this setup. And it's another SLX 8-2-1 reel. Yeah, you guys are going to get tired of seeing this setup because I catch a lot of fish on it. So in the bite of the day recap from February, I was filming it on the day I caught that 6-pounder, and I caught another 6-pounder. And in that video I say I'm going to show you both of them back to back. But I didn't, because the next time I went out was with my buddy Josh. And he met me out actually on this lake, and I was already out on the roundabout, and he came out with his kayak. And I asked him to pick up some snacks. I had run out of snacks. And if you know anything about kayak fishing or roundabout out there in the wind, sometimes it can be hard to get places. So the wind had pushed him away from me. And so it took me several hours to end up meeting up with him. And I finally made the attempt to close the gap to get my snacks. And as I roll up to Josh, I ask him how he's doing, and he's telling me he's caught 19 fish, which is about what I had caught. And as I'm talking to him, he sets the hook, and you just got to see this. This is like awesome that I caught it on film. He didn't have a GoPro on him, so I was just glad I was there and glad that I showed up for this. Check out bite number 111, my buddy Josh Eddy's 10-pound bass on a Zoom speedworm, his new PB. Oh, awesome.
Yeah, that's dude.
Just stay there. Just keep the pressure on her.
Oh, she's all wrapped around that.
So I'm gonna grab the lily pads. I just can't find her mouth through all the lily pads. Oh, dude, I got her. She's huge.
Oh,
Oh my God, man.
and she came off, didn't she?
No,
Yeah, she's still hooked?
still hooked, but not well.
Dude.
That's over 10, dude. Well, what about let it go here. It's all my GoPro. Yeah, how about that fight, man? These lily pads out here are brutal. I have lost probably the biggest fish of my life here and on other lakes in Florida on lily pads specifically, because they're stretchy enough that you can't really break them, but they're strong enough that you can't yank your line through them. It's horrible. But luckily I was there to help Josh get that fish. I mean, that was a true tank. And to be there just in time to film it all was awesome. Obviously that was his setup, not mine, but I talked to him the other day, had him explain what he was using. He was using his SLX reel with 30-pound braid on a Dobbins Fury 7-foot medium heavy fast action. Throwing the, I believe it's the Zoom Speed Vibe speedworm, the medium length one. It's about 7 inches. Yeah, 7-inch, I think. I don't actually have any right now, otherwise I'd show you. And he was running that on just a regular worm hook and a 1-ounce tungsten weight with a bobber stop. No leader, straight braid, and he had just switched from June bug to that black sapphire color, which is black with blue flake. So it's a little darker than June bug, which is like kind of blue with black and blue flake. It depends on whose June bug you're talking about. But it was just a little darker version of black and blue, basically, and a speedworm. And if you pay attention to tournament fishing or fishing in general in Florida, you'll know that the speedworm or a swimming worm is, like, without a doubt, one of the keys to catching fish down here. I don't know what it is about a June bug, swimming worm, but it's incredible. I actually flip sometimes, instead of with a craw or a creature bait, with the 5-inch paddle tail speedworm. It's got like a little beaver tail. I don't think I have any out. I'm sure I'll have a bite of the day with it soon. And it works really good for punching. It's just a little different presentation than a craw or like a beaver bait. But like I said, that was Josh's PB. 10 pounds. I mean, that's what we all hope for, right? Catch a 10-pounder. I think it was 10.8 was the last weight we got. Florida trophy catch approved already. So awesome fish, man. I mean, crazy on a kayak too. And Josh is pretty new to bass fishing. He got literally hooked as soon as he caught his first bass. I think he went from a John boat and fishing, you know, around lakes to buying a bass boat and a truck to pull it, and now a kayak and trying to not buy more tackle. But that's all of our problems. I was just glad that I was out here and I got to watch it, and, you know, always glad to see my friends catch a big fish like that. I mean, everybody wants to catch a 10-pounder. It's a freaking 10-pounder. Congrats, Josh. So yeah, that's the recap of the bite of the day for March of 2021. Was that bites number 104 through 111. I have it written down over there. I have to take notes. I can't remember all the stuff, guys. I remember every spot I've ever caught a fish or lost a fish, but I don't remember what videos I've put out in what order. So I guess my brain has priorities. Keep the fish spots in order more than the timeline of what I do. But yeah, April's turning into a topwater month of the bite of the day. We'll see if that holds up unless I catch something cool on a different bait. Look forward to seeing you guys in the next bite of the day recap and all the little bites of the day. Until then, I have a tackle organization storage video that I'm editing, and then the jerkbait video soon as well. Just stay tuned, guys. Thanks for checking me out. I'm Ted from Ted Lincoln's Fishing Life. I'm out. I gotta go catch some of these bass out here. See you guys later.